Hello, my name is Greensill, and welcome to the Rank 3 Guide for Japan. In this part of the Japanese tech tree is where being crafty and knowing where to aim plays a big role in your survival. The first vehicle in this guide is the Nato. It is an open-top tank destroyer built on an armored truck. It holds a large crew count of 6 people, 2 in the front driving compartment and 4 in the back with the gun. The weapon system is a long-barreled 75mm gun fixed to the top of the truck, allowing it to have a plus or minus 20-degree horizontal guidance and a -8 to 19-degree vertical guidance. It has access to a pretty good APHE round with a max penetration of 140mm and a kind of wimpy HE round with a max penetration of 8mm at any range with an explosive mass of 490 grams. And once unlocking the Tier 2 round and modifications, you get Japan's first APCR round with a max penetration of 177mm. The armor on this truck is quite thin, with 12mm of RHA for the front and sides of the vehicle, along with the gun shield and driver viewports, 8mm of RHA for the engine cover and top of the driver cabin, with the thickest armor being the gun mantelet at 30mm of RHA. The Nato has a pretty good reload rate of 6.8 seconds, meaning you will be shooting on the faster end of most medium tanks and tank destroyers. It has a pretty good max speed of 40 km per hour and a good reverse speed of 8 km per hour, but struggles to get up past 30 km per hour. So the method of playing this tank is to take a medium range to long range sniping role, since the rounds are very good for its battle rating and it would only struggle to penetrate the front of enemy tanks at battle rating 4.3. Also, since the gun sits high, you can prop behind a short hill so only the gun shield peeks out, and any APHE round that hits the gun shield will act as an AP round, since the armor is too thin to trigger the HE aspect of most APHE rounds. The downside of this truck is that the armor is very thin, so any 50 cal machine gun fire will penetrate you, and it is an open top tank, so any overpressure mechanics will apply. The M24 is an import tank from America and is an exact copy of the one in the US tech tree. Being a light tank, this is the first tank in the Japanese tech tree that gives Japan access to the scouting mechanic in the game. The M24 has a compact crew compartment containing 5 people. The M24's weapon system is a 75mm gun with access to an OK AP round with a max penetration of 91mm, an OK HE round with a max penetration of 10mm at any range with an explosive mass of 666 grams, and a pretty good APHE round with a max penetration of 104mm. This is also the first tank for Japan to have a 50 cal mounted on top of the tank instead of the usual 7mm machine gun. It has a not very good reload time of 8.4 seconds, so you want to take time and aim your shots. The armor on this tank is kinda thin, but it is a light tank. It has 25.4mm of RHA for the front and side hull of the crew compartment and side of the turret armor, 25.4mm of RHA for the upper front plate at a constructional angling of 60 degrees, 19.05mm of RHA for the side hull covering the engine compartment, and 38.1mm of RHA for the turret mantelet and cheeks. The M24 has a great max speed of 57 km per hour with a great max reverse speed of 23 km per hour. It does only get up to upper 40 km per hour off-road, but it can get to a key location quickly. So the method of playing this tank is to either get to a key location quickly and play a mid-range role as a spotter for your team by scouting the enemy and moving up as needed, and also taking pot shots at the enemy to distract them, or take a close range role and use your speed to flank the enemy team by getting semi-close to shoot the enemy in the side or rear, along with scouting their position at the same time. The downside of this tank is the armor is a bit thin, and the rounds are a little lackluster for the battle rating you'll be facing, but mostly because of the compact crew compartment, so any round that hits you will take out most if not all the crew. The M19A1 is an import vehicle from America and is an exact copy of the one in the US tech tree. Built on the chassis the M24, the M19A1 is an open-top AA tank. This 6 crew tank has shifted the engine of the M24 to the middle and the gun to the back, leaving the driver and machine gunner in the front crew compartment and the 4 remaining members in the back with the gun. The beast of a weapon system on the M19A1 uses a twin Bofors 40mm autocannon with an initial ammo count of 8 rounds per gun with a total ammo pool of 16 rounds. But this is an open magazine system which allows the gun to reload while firing, so you can shoot until the gun overheats. It has access to an OK FIT round with a max penetration of 3mm at any range with an explosive mass of 63 3 grams, and an APT round with a max penetration of 72mm. The armor on this tank is quite thin, with 12.7mm of RHA for the whole tank including the turret shield, and 8mm of RHA for the side and rear turret armor. It has the exact same max speed and reverse speed of the M24 of 57 km per hour and 23 km per hour, and can get up to upper 40 km per hour off-road, but it can still get to key locations quickly. So the method of playing this AA tank is to take a tank hunting role more than going full AA. Its speed will allow you to flank the enemy and set up in a good position to hit the enemy in the side, since the APT round will have little trouble penetrating the side of any tank you will face. You can still act as an AA since the FIT round is good for taking out aircraft, but due to the volume of fire and the way the gun shoots, it is quite easy for the enemy aircraft to fly through your volley. The downside of this tank is not only the open top and thin armor, so machine gun fire and aircraft can take you out, but mostly because the ammo of this tank is stored outside the turret, so a grazing shot could hit the ammo and set it off, knocking you out. The Chi-2 is the first in the series of late Chi series tanks and is the Japanese equivalent of the Panzer IV. Based on the chassis of the Chi-Nu, it is wider and taller, but shorter in length, and it also holds 5 crew members but are only a little bit more spread out, along with moving some of the ammo to the hull from the turret. It is equipped with a long-barreled 75mm gun that has access to an OK APHE round with a max penetration of 149mm, an OK HE round with a max penetration of 8mm at any range with an explosive mass of 490 grams, and once unlocking the Tier 2 modification, you will get the upgraded Type 4 APHE round with a pretty good max penetration of 151mm. The Chi-2 has 75mm of RHA for the front at almost no constructional angle, 50mm of RHA for the angled front side armor, 20mm of RHA for the upper front plate at a constructional angle of 76 degrees, 35mm of RHA for the side, 50mm of RHA for the side turret armor, and 75mm of RHA for the front turret armor at almost no constructional angle, along with a 20mm RHA brace riveted around the gun mantlet. It has a good max speed of 45 km per hour and a good max reverse speed of 8 km per hour, and can get up to mid 30 km per hour at a decent rate. So the method of playing this tank is to either take a close range assist role, since the 2 APHE rounds will have an OK time penetrating the front of enemy tanks from battle ratings 3.7 to 5, or the weak spots in the front of enemy tanks at battle rating 5.3 to 5.7. Also, when in close range, angling your hull at a 45-degree angle to the enemy will allow you to get the most out of your armor, or take a mid-range sniping role to give a better chance at hitting the sides of enemy tanks, since it can fight tanks up at battle rating 5.7, and because the turret rotation is on the slower end of most of the enemies you'll be facing, having time to react to them is better. The downside of this tank is that the front armor is quite flat, so it will still be easy to be penetrated, and with the turret shifted more to the right side, leaving a chance for the left side to stick out more. So if not paying attention to the left side of the tank, the enemy can shoot that part and take out most if not all your crew. And if you take more than 21 rounds into combat, the ammo past 21 will be sitting in the ammo rack in the left side, so a shot to that side of the tank could set the ammo off. The Chi-2 Late is an upgraded version of the Chi-2, but is pretty much the same. It is slightly thinner and longer, but slightly shorter in height. It has removed most of the covering over the treads, and the turret is not as long in the back and not as big, along with putting the turret in the middle of the tank instead of off to the right side. It also uses the same long-barreled 75mm gun with the exact same rounds, along with the enhanced Type 4 APHE round being at Tier 2 modification. The armor is the same value but changed in design. The front armor of 75mm of RHA is now given an improved constructional angle of 36 degrees, along with the side front armor of 50mm of RHA at a constructional angle of 31 degrees. The side armor is now one uniform shape at a constructional angle of 30 degrees. The turret is smaller and less rounded, going for more of a Chi-Nu style, providing it a slightly better head-on protection. The turret has also removed the 20mm RHA brace around the gun mantle. It has the same max speed and reverse speed as the Chi-2 of 45 km per hour and 8 km per hour, and it also gets up to mid-30s at a decent rate. The method of playing this tank is also the same as the Chi-2, but it can do a better job at close range roll, since the armor in the front and sides are now angled, so when angling at a 45-degree angle to the enemy, they will have a harder time penetrating you in the front, and at the same battle rating of 4.7, taking a mid-range roll to hit tanks at 5.7 in the side would be preferred, since heavy tanks will be more at play, and having a turret rotation speed the same as the Chi 2, it will give you time to react to a threat better. The downside of this tank is the side armor is kinda thin, so when angling, it's best to angle behind cover instead of out in the open, since the enemy can just shoot the side of the hull, taking out most if not all the crew. The Chi-Ri 2 is the last in the series of Chi tanks. Being an upgraded version of the Chi 2 Late, this massive tank is not only longer and taller, but the crew are even more spaced out, being the first Japanese tank to have a non-compact crew compartment. And the turret is pushed further back to make room for the second gun that was added. The weapon system is mostly the same. It has the same long-barreled 75mm gun with all the exact same rounds as the previous Chi series tanks, but it added a second short-barreled 37mm gun fixed to the front hull of the tank that has access to a not very good APHE round with a max penetration of 46mm. The major difference in this weapon system is the 3-round autoloading feature that was added, which is why the turret is so big. With the 3 rounds in the autoloading system, it has a reload time of 4.3 seconds, but once the 3 rounds have been shot, it has a painful reload time of about 10 seconds. And it takes about 21 seconds to refill 1 round in the autoloader, so taking your time to aim is key since you'll be punished once the last of the 3 rounds have been shot. The Chi-Ri 2's armor is mostly the same as the Chi 2 Late. The front 75mm RHA plate is back to being almost flat. The 50mm RHA side front plate constructional angling has been reduced to 16 degrees. The side armor's constructional angling has been reduced to 11 degrees. The upper front plate's constructional angle has been changed to 82 degrees, and the 20mm RHA brace has been put back on the front of the turret, making the effective armor value next to the gun mantlet 95mm of RHA. It has the same max speed and reverse speed as the Chi 2 of 45 km per hour and 8 km per hour, and gets up to mid 30 km per hour at a decent rate. So the method of playing this tank is mostly the same as the Chi 2 for both close range and mid-range fighting, but being at battle rating 5.0, it will face tanks at 6.0, so the APHE round with a max penetration of 151mm might have trouble penetrating the enemies in the front, so a mid-range approach would be better to hit the enemy in the side. Along with having the same turret rotation speed of the Chi 2, mid-range combat would be preferred so you can react to the enemy faster. But you do have an added benefit in close range fighting with the extra gun. You can bait an enemy into popping out of cover by shooting the 37mm gun at them, making them think you fired your main one, and then hit them with the main gun when they pop out of cover. The downside of this tank is that it's so tall and big it's easy to spawn. Because it's so long, it has a larger hitbox for side shots. For battle rating 5 to 6, the armor is thinner than most of the enemies you'll be facing, and with the extra 37mm gun added to the tank, there is more ammo inside the tank. And the 37mm gun's ammo is stored in the front, so any hits to the hole in the front left or right of the tank has a chance of hitting your ammo racks and could cause them to go off. The last tank of the guide is the M4A3 76W Sherman. It is also an import tank from America and is an exact copy of the one in the US tech tree. It plays just like all the other Shermans, but for those that don't know, let's go over it. The M4A3 is tall and wide and has a pretty good crew compartment spacing containing 5 people. It is equipped with a long-barreled 76mm gun that has access to an OK AP round with a max penetration of 134mm, an OK HE round with a max penetration of 7mm at any range with an explosive mass of 390 grams, and a good AP CBC round with a max penetration of 149mm, and lastly an OK APCR round with a max penetration of 190mm. Being a non-Japanese tank, it has pretty good armor. It has 63.5mm of RHA for the front at a constructional angle of 35 degrees, 36.5 and 107.9mm of cast homogeneous armor in the front covering the transmission, 38.1mm of RHA for the side, a variable thickness of cast armor for the turret mantlet, and 63.5mm of cast homogeneous armor for the whole turret. It has an OK max speed of 42 km per hour and a not very good reverse max speed of 5 km per hour, but can get up to 30 km per hour at a decent rate. The method of playing this tank is to either play a close range roll while angled to get the most out of your armor, and to give you a better chance at hitting the weak spots in the front of enemy tanks since you'll be fighting up at battle rating 6.7, or to play a flanking roll roll to hit them in the side, or you can hang back and play a mid-range roll to give you a better chance at hitting the enemy in the side. The downside of this tank is that it's tall and easy to spot, and you are vulnerable when peeking over hills. While your armor will do okay against tanks at battle rating 4.7 to 5.7, when facing 6.0 to 6.7 it'll have almost no chance of taking a hit. The biggest issue is your rounds penetration is quite lacking when fighting tanks above your battle rating, so you'll have trouble penetrating their armor unless you know where to aim at each tank you run into. To summarize rank 3, the American tanks add a new play element to Japan that can cause you to change your playstyle sometimes mid-match. While the Chi-Tu to Chi-Ri play almost the same, they also have most of the same flaws. That is all for the rank 3 guide for Japan. The next section will cover rank 4 for Japan. If you want a more in-depth look at one of these tanks, let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video or it was helpful to you, please leave a like. And if you want to see the continuation of these guides, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.